Welcome back to Fuck the Mold, where we unpack boxes society tries to put us in. I'm your host, Jenna Lynn. Today, I have got with me Kristen Benton. Kristen is owner of Sunset Social Events, customizable mobile bar services. She also does travel UGC for hotels, restaurants, Airbnbs, and travel itineraries. This girl does it all. But most importantly, it's my girlfriend. Thank you so much for being here today, carving out the time. I know you carve out a lot of time for me already, so thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very nervous.
First date, kind of nervous.
Very.
Well, today's episode is all about corporate America and leaving the mold of corporate, working for somebody else. And we've got the queen of entrepreneurship here, and she is going to walk us through what that journey has looked like in her life and pretty much choosing herself. So I'd love for you to tell me just how you kind of started in your career in corporate America and give us a brief overview of what that looked like for you.
My background is in sales. That's the only job I've ever had in corporate America. I started off with meal prep sales, which I absolutely loved, being in the fitness industry. And then I went on to exterior house painting sales. I've just kind of done a portfolio of if it can be sold, I can do it. And I also had a little stint there in real estate where I sold houses. So if it can be sold, I'm going to show up and do it.
You're like, people love me and I.
People need what
I'm going to sell some shit.
Exactly, yeah. Pay me and I will sell it, yeah.
What were the early signs that told you that entrepreneurship was really where you wanted to be in life?
That's tough because when I was growing up, I remember in high school, everyone's like, "Oh, what do you want to do for the rest of your life?" And I thought that was such a daunting question. Like, how do I pick? Everyone was like, "I want to be a doctor, or a lawyer, or a police officer," and I just wanted to help people. I had no idea what that looked like. People kind of laughed. I was like, "Someone's going to pay me to help people." Naturally, I went into sales, right? That should help people, but I just wasn't fulfilled in any of that, doing what society told me to do. I knew that there was something different, but I didn't really have an example of what that looked like. I just knew I wanted different.
Yeah. You're like, the rest of my life. That's a lot of years.
I'm like, wait, what? It was a really confusing concept to push down a 17-year-old's throat and be like, do it.
Yeah. One at 17.
I had no idea what I was doing the next day,
Yeah.
and they wanted me to pick the rest of my life. So it was just, it's a concept that I don't think makes sense to put on anyone, honestly, at any age. So
Yeah. Did you have any entrepreneurs in your family that kind of showed you or paved a way that you saw was different than the corporate America or this kind of narrative that schools were selling you of, oh, you need to choose the rest of your life right now?
I didn't. I had a mentor growing up that kind of helped me with that and that owned a nonprofit. And I was like, oh, there is a different route to just going in and clocking in for your 9 to 5. So I think that's really what turned me on to that there was more instead of just sitting behind a desk.
And you also don't have a college degree. So I think that a portion of that was also creating a different path because you did have a very successful stint in sales. You were making six figures, making good money. People were paying you, you were selling it, and you knew that you didn't necessarily need these pieces of paper behind you to be successful. And so what did that kind of do for your morale and your self-esteem to be able to be successful in corporate without the route that most people say that you need to have to be successful?
Absolutely. Well, I did go to college. I just didn't finish. So
Right.
let that be on record. Okay. I did 3 years. I did play college softball, but still doing what they tell you to do, go to college, get a degree. It still felt weird. If I'm honest, I was only there for sports. They made me go to class, to play. So beyond that, I remember when I did get out, I was really embarrassed because all of my friends came out with 4-year degrees and they got these really cool jobs that looking back, they probably hated. And I didn't know what I wanted. Sales really was an opportunity for me to prove myself. So that was really an industry that let me be myself. So I was really grateful for that. It's taught me so many skills now. I mean, everything I do is around selling, but now I'm just selling for myself. So it's just a different mindset.
And that comparison is really heavy, especially at that age in college. Like you're saying, you come out of it and everyone's got these degrees, and comparing your life. Not only are we sold this script, but we are heavily based on comparing our success to other people in our lives. And like you're saying, we don't know if they hate their lives. They could absolutely despise their lives. And it's all about comparison. They sell us this vision of their lives. And a lot of times we believe it, especially with social media nowadays.
I remember growing up and being so envious of people that knew what they wanted to do. Like they wanted to be a lawyer. And obviously, that is something that you need a degree for. And I remember being like, their path is so clear. I wanted that so bad. And I never have had that. I still don't have that to this day. I'm just like on this journey of life. Now I look back and I love creating the life that I live now. I love that I'm bold enough to step out and do it. And those people might be happy. Like I'm not shaming, doing the 9 to 5 and doing something that you're passionate about. I think what I have found along my journey of life, a lot of people aren't passionate in what they chose when they were 17, 18. And now that's been what they've built their whole life on and how they identify themselves. I just identify as life is short and I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Do you think that that's led you to be so dynamic now? As you say, you have experience in house painting and meal prep companies. You know a lot about a lot of different industries, and how has that helped you with your interpersonal skills?
Gravely.
I mean, you said the people love you,
The people
so
love me. The people love me. The companies love me. I could do it all over and go get a sales job by tomorrow, by dinner time. I'm really confident in that. And I have so many tools that sales has given me, which I'm so grateful for. And I think being in all those industries has really shaped who I am and who I'm going to continue to become because of the opportunities that I provide for myself at this point. Society really tried, and they still do, like impact some of my thoughts sometimes with shaping me and what I'm supposed to do. Like, you need a 401k, you need retirement, you need things like this, and that you'll only get that from a corporation. I just live bigger.
I mean, I don't need a 401k if I just have that much money, right?
Exactly.
We
And
just need to get
yeah,
there.
and I think my priorities are just different. I've gained the skills. Corporate America has given me those skills, and I am grateful. Like, right, I'm not here to shame it. I just know that it wasn't the route that I wanted to continue to take.
Did you feel like you got taught from an early age that you kind of had to pay your dues, kind of take shit and put up with things in corporate America to be able to be successful or climb the ladder?
Yes. After I left college, I just felt like I had no skills. I had worked at Publix throughout high school. And in my town that I'm from, that was a pretty big deal. So I felt like a big deal. And then I get out into the real world and it's like, oh, you don't have a college degree. You're not going to be worth anything. Or I had to create a way where people would take me serious because when I filled out a job application, you clearly say that, you don't have a degree. But when I got turned on to sales, it is an industry where you can prove yourself. So I just kind of went into the right thing. I kind of fell into that. And once I did, and they were like, oh, we'll pay you a base salary, but just sell a little bit and you'll make more money. I was very money driven. I still am to this day. That is why sales has worked really well for me up until this point. When you get in sales, like there's a base salary and then you have to work your way up. So I was used to that. And in sales, if you work harder, you make more. So that grind I loved because there was no ceiling on what I could make. Then you're hitting 6 figures in your 20s and it's like, okay, this is really cool. Now I can travel the world. Now I can do things on my own time. And that gets really addicting. And I can see why people get stuck in that rat race and that wheel. I was there for a little bit. And then I had to realize what was taking more of my time, which was doing the rat race. At some point, you just hit your head against the wall, and it's like, is it worth it?
So you had the money portion of freedom, but you
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the time portion of
No.
freedom, and that was kind of, you came to a realization that that is the more valuable asset to you.
100%. Because if you've ever been in sales, I mean, you work 24 hours a day. People are always calling, you're always trying to close a deal, which is important. And when you're money driven and you want to close that deal, you're going to work all the time. It's kind of, again, what they sell you. When you're in it, it's just easy to kind of get lost in that.
So you're talking about all these things that corporate kind of has taught you or sold you. What do you think is one of the biggest lies that corporate sold you? Too many to count.
There are a lot, but I think the one thing that I have learned, now I'm only 35. Okay. So I have been in corporate for a couple of years. In those couple of years, I think the biggest thing that was pushed on me was that I need them. I felt
Preach.
that. Yeah, I felt that for so long that I need them because they're my direct deposit every single week. I was used to it. I loved it. I had no complaints when I was making the money. They keep you in that. They do your evaluations, where you're at in the year, and this is where we need you to be. And it was just always like I would be on top of the world with my team and killing it and bringing in the money, and it would still not be enough. I was like, no, but I'm hitting the metrics. I'm doing what you told me to do. And it still wasn't enough. It was always like, okay, yeah, we hear you, but let's go higher. It was always reaching for more and reaching for more. And at some point I was like, I don't have the energy. Like it's how they keep you. And I think that I don't want people to think that I think corporate America is bad. I just knew that I wanted more, right? I think a lot of people are comfortable in it. And if it works for you, it works for you. If that's the life, I have a lot of friends that love their job. They clock out at 5 and then they go and live their life. I was in a world of sales that like I didn't clock out each night. It was just a continuation and it kept going.
And you said, I don't really mind that life
Mm-hmm.
of pursuit of sales because then I'm in kind of control of that income. But for you, it's more that you want to feel like what you're in control of is something meaningful. And, you know, you've talked about wanting to help people, and that was kind of a main metric of you coming out of college. You are helping people in different industries, but then you're like, okay, well, what's the industry I want to help people in, you know?
Yeah, I want to helping people. Yes, you can help people in sales, which I was doing at a very small level. I want to impact individuals. And the way that I have found impacting people is through travel. Like that's just a passion of mine. It's funny because people always say, well, you still have to work a job and you can still have like hobbies and stuff like that. And I was like, travel is not a hobby. It is above all of what I just adore in this life. And I think more people can have that, but they don't go after that because they have to go to work on Monday. And when you're in that, it's just lies that they keep telling you.
Well, and so many people experience in corporate, and when you have conversations with them, what they're telling you is, oh, I wish I could travel more. And so you see this kind of dissonance in the conversation that they want to do it more, but they don't. And you're kind of trying to bridge that gap for them and say, hey, this is a lifestyle that's possible. And how do we get you there, or get you to do it more often, get you to do these things that you enjoy more often in this life that you get?
100%. And I'm not here to like, say that entrepreneurship is for everybody because I don't think it is. I think there's a creative side to it. There's a sacrifice that comes with it. There's so much people don't really know, including myself, when you get into
like
it.
I'm lost.
Yeah, like I'm figuring it out each and every day. But I would rather spend my time on this earth figuring it out for myself than relying on it for someone else or trying to figure out their dreams. My leadership and above, they were going on vacations a lot more than myself. So I was seeing that and I'd be like, okay, but I have to work harder. This concept was crazy to me. I understand responsibility. I understand making money. I understand that's how that makes the world go round. But for me, I want freedom. And I had to choose at the end of the day what was more important to me.
Well, and you kind of got to say that because you made it to that level of success. You were sold the idea of success, which was monetary, and then you made it there and you were like, oh wait, maybe actually it's time, you know, and then you kind of reverted back from there. You're like, okay, well, I could make less money and support myself, but then I would have all this time to do this thing that I love, and that ended up being more important.
Yes.
But you only learn that when you do it.
You have to make the jump.
If somebody else told me that, then I might not believe them, but
no,
because you experience it firsthand,
it's totally different. Exactly. Yeah. I think people look at my life. I know people look at my life. I don't have a lot of responsibility. I have myself. I do not want children. I don't have children. I don't have a mortgage. I have a beautiful girlfriend, right? It's that fire.
my heart is racing. That was so scary.
What the hell?
Like, fire.
Really?
So, was there a time that you felt like you had to compromise your morals to kind of fit the corporate agenda?
Absolutely. More than once. But if I have to
give me
think
the
about,
tea.
yeah.
Give me the tea.
If I have to go to one place in my head, I was in a meeting. Leadership was there, and they were just kind of giving us little gems here and there. And it started off as a great meeting. Someone on another team asked, "How do we get through these long days?" Like, they were just exhausted and really kind of coming forth with how they were feeling, and were really seeking some solid advice and how that their days could just feel better. Our leadership, I remember before answering, just kind of chuckled, and the room was really silent. She said burnout was a fucking excuse. All the breath went out of the room, and we just were kind of like, oh, okay. Like,
it's a real quick way to lose morale.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, I hear you, but like someone's coming forward because they're struggling and they really are seeking some advice. They're not trying to quit.
They need some guidance.
They really do need guidance. I heard the answer and I saw the look of disappointment. I think some people laughed, and I mean, it was true advice coming from them, and it just didn't sit well with me. I was like, how can I keep grinding my gears to make it for other people when I am feeling so drained myself? Because in that moment, I was hitting my breaking point as well. So I was really ready for an answer. But when I heard the answer that was given, I was like, oh, so we just work harder to build the dreams of someone else.
Yeah, when you're looking to leadership to lead you, and you felt very unled at that. No inspiration.
No, frustrating.
No guiding. Yeah.
Like, okay, you've given me this answer, now I have to make a choice for myself. And I think that was really empowering as well. It really opened my eyes. That moment for me was just very validating, that I had to choose myself because no one else was going to.
Well, if you were going to stay there, then that meant that you just kind of had to disregard.
Suck it up and move on.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah. One foot in front of the other.
How? Yeah.
You're like, you're cool. Yeah. Great advice.
Thank you so much. I will leave now. And that's kind of where it started, if I'm honest. Like that seed kind of dropped for me, and I was like, okay, so what can I do to create the life that I actually want to live. And that's really all that I've worked towards right now is really finding that freedom and what that looks like for myself.
Yeah, change your perspective kind of on how they viewed you guys. You know,
Well, how they
you're a
valued
commodity.
me.
You're a commodity now.
Exactly. It was like, okay, so I was just a number. I was just an employee because I'm telling you right now, when I left, they just filled my spot. That's how it
Business
works.
as usual.
Business continues on, and I've seen that more and more with my time in corporate, that the world just moves forward. I want to be in business for myself. And I
Yeah.
think that's just kind of where it fell for me. And it makes it easier. It's just your mindset and your perspective shifts that, like, this life is really short and something could happen to me tomorrow where I don't wake up. So I might as well just create what I want right now because no one else is going to do it for you.
Yeah. And someone who's driven by helping people, you know that you want to build a business that treats people with that respect, you know, and
100%.
make sure that the people they work with, whether it be a strategic partnership or an employee, you are making sure that they feel seen, feel heard, feel appreciated, because we're all just humans trying to work with each other, you know?
Absolutely. And we all need to make money. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why we go to these corporations, right? We need a paycheck. And I think there's just a bigger picture here that we can be doing it
A little bit more
a
ethically.
little bit, like a little bit more integrity and care and concern and
Add a
love,
little bit
and
of
yeah,
care.
like just please, just a little bit. And it's funny because they do it for a little bit, right? They do until they get what they want. And I remember another meeting where it was like, okay, Q3, the team killed everything. I mean, every goal we hit, we were projected for Q4, everything was great. And it was like, okay, but since you guys did that in Q3, now we're going to double what we're doing in Q4. And it's like, oh wait, no, so now we have to go work more. And it was like those moments where I just kept asking more and more and more and more and more. But I want to like travel more and create more, and I couldn't do that by working more and more and more.
So would you say that that meeting alone was, you know, you said it was your starting point. What was the actual tipping point that really set you to the other side, that said, "No, I need to pursue this thing that brings me my autonomy, brings me this independency that really can foster my need for travel, my desire to be something bigger or interact with people in a more wholesome and ethical way."
Yeah. Well, that meeting definitely was a turning point for me, kind of dropping the seed of like, I need to figure it out. Either this was the rest of my life or I can choose something different. And so I really looked into what my passions were, and my passion is travel. And travel is a hobby for a lot of people, but I was at that time doing itineraries for like friends and families. And I really enjoyed that. And I was like, oh, I could sell itineraries. Like people were already reaching out for me to do that. And then I'm like, well, I have to charge you because I need to make some money. And that's just kind of how it starts. Like it just created itself with that. My passion for travel with the UGC is I'm already traveling and I'm already staying in hotels. So I might as well take some pictures and videos. Once I sat down and decided that I wanted more freedom, it was pretty easy after that. It was just like, okay, well, how do we get more freedom? And then I had to look to my passions, which was traveling, itineraries, UGC, for hotels and Airbnbs and stuff like that. Stuff I was already doing, I just wasn't getting paid for. So then it kind of just flipped on a switch where it's like, okay, why don't we work on how to get paid for that? I'm not here to be like, quit your job if you hate it and just move on and work for yourself, because it's definitely not that easy. But I did save for months. I had a good little nest egg. I took the leap. And now each and every day I'm figuring out, one step closer to what that future looks like for me.
And I will say, one of the biggest things is so many people, and this is to everyone, so many people say that their passion isn't able to be monetized.
Mm-hmm.
And I just would love to challenge any person on that. The how to monetize might not be easy, but it's out there. I promise you there's a market for you. I promise there's a way to monetize it. You just have to figure out what that looks like. There are so many different types of models for businesses. You just have to figure out the how.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, you know? A lot of people know what they're passionate about. They just need to figure out the how.
I want to reiterate, the how is not easy. Figuring out how to get paid to travel, when I say it out loud at the beginning, it was so crazy because I was like, no, but traveling is like a luxury. I'm like, it is, but there are industries that need what I need to give them. It's not easy. It's very hard. And every day I wonder how I'm going to do it and what it looks like the next day, but I just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Well, you have to reverse engineer it, right? You've got to say, okay, this is my passion. What do people in that industry use or need? And how can I do it better? Or what is something they do internally that maybe they could outsource, or things like that. Just being creative about it. And, as much as people can say the industry's saturated, every industry is so saturated. I mean, how long have people been on this
Yeah.
earth, and how long have businesses been running America? To avoid any and all saturated markets, just do what you're passionate about. Find out the how.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work hard, but
That's just more noise, to be honest with you. Just
Yeah.
listening to that it's oversaturated, because people can say the same about content creation, UGC, and stuff like that.
And you can always travel more. You know, your
Exactly.
industry, like, it's
Exactly.
not like something people do once and it's like, oh, okay, I can help one person once. You have an industry that everyone can use your assistance all day, every day, and it's
100%.
just
Yeah.
figuring out how you fit into that. So obviously we've talked about you've had a super successful career making six figures in sales. And how did you kind of justify leaving that stability and the financial prowess? How did you justify leaving that to pursue working for yourself?
Well, justify is a big word.
You're
And
like, I still have it.
it's not easy. I mean,
Delusion.
delusion is a big key part. But I will say that, like, you have to look at how I live my life. I put travel over everything, right? I don't have kids. I don't have the house. Like, there are things that I choose not to have. I don't have any pets. Like, I don't like a lot of responsibility. Like, the overhead of life, I don't have, so I take care of myself. I live as a minimalist. It doesn't take much to keep me happy. And so with that, I don't need as much. And it's really easy to put it in perspective when you don't have that direct deposit coming in, realizing that it doesn't take much to survive. I don't go without by any means, but I just prioritize where I put my money into now. And what that is pouring into myself and into traveling and people that I care about. Those are the three buckets that I kind of have. And everything else is just noise. And I just focus on the things that make me happy.
So you've kind of identified, okay, I've got these two really big core values, which is travel and then my family and friends.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that every dollar I spend is pouring into one of those two things. How do I make sure that every dollar is going towards those things? In corporate, we get kind of caught up in this, oh, I need the nice fancy car and I need this and I need that. And people don't have a definition of what their core values are as an individual. And so they're not able to make those informed decisions on, wait, is my money going towards what my actual core values are? And they haven't really identified that. And you have. And you're like, no, I put this above everything else. This is the most important thing to me. And you put your money where your mouth is.
Yes. It took me a while, though. I'm not going to say that's easy. Because again, when you're in corporate and everyone has nice downtown apartments, then I sign a lease on a nice studio downtown apartment. Like, I have the things, right?
Here comes that comparison again.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's what you're in, and you're like, I have the money, so let's do it.
It's easy too.
It's
It looks pretty.
I love it. I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't love it. I love a high
Yeah.
lifestyle, you know?
We love a good floor to ceiling
Window.
window.
Yes, 100%. But it just comes down to, and I live this, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, was today worth it? I would just say to myself, like, okay, I'm gonna go, sell some paint tomorrow, which is great. Like, it provided for me. I'm not grateful. But at the end of the day, I'm like, but what have I done for myself? That conflict inside of me just kept going and kept going. So that's how I ended up justifying, like, okay, well, just choose yourself. And choosing yourself is just not easy, especially in this society. They're talking about family or friends that just look at you like you're crazy. But it's like you have to justify it to you. You have to justify it to the people around you, to your world. Like, that's hard in itself. So I think it definitely just comes from within. And when you get fed up with something, you'll make a different choice, hopefully.
I mean, that strong sense of self is
Mhm.
really what gets you through it.
That's it.
It's repetition and making sure that you believe in your idea over everything else, because that noise comes no matter what.
It's
And it comes
daunting.
from a lot of people and
It's
people you're
everywhere.
close to too, people you respect. And I
Mhm.
think that some of that is what people don't always understand is a lot of negativity comes from people who you respect and love in your life. And you do have to kind of cut out that noise too, which is not easy.
It's tough. If you guys could have seen me last week, I was in it. Like, it's just, there are days where I cry. I mean, it's not to glorify entrepreneurship, because it's not easy. Each and every day I'm figuring it out. And when that noise starts to creep in and the doubt comes, it's really hard to ignore. And I think for a lot of people, that is very discouraging. And this is my second time leaving corporate America. The first time I was like, "Oh, screw it. I'm going on to something else. I'm done with you guys, whatever." And then life happens. I went back. When I went back in, it helped me get out of debt. It created so much for me, an opportunity. But then when I was back in it, and I had to look at the bigger picture, like, okay, now I'm not choosing myself again. And that gets really hard whenever you believe so highly of yourself and you feel like you were just really born to do something great. And when you're stuck in just like the day to day mundane, it just didn't work for me.
And your needs and your desires and your core values can change sometimes.
Yep.
You had this opportunity to be able to get yourself out of debt and you took it,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a priority at that time. Now that you've kind of reached that metric, now you're like, okay, we're going to move on, and now we're going to really focus on these other core values. We all have seasons, they can change, and supporting yourself in whatever direction that is, it just could look different. And that's just life.
Yeah. I have a couple people in my life that like they have a job and they talk about like retiring when they're 70 with that job. And I'm like, that sounds miserable. Like, I have never had that mindset. You know, my mother works very hard. She's a nurse. She loves what she does. She's great at what she does. I've kind of gone my whole life like being like, oh my God, that looks so cool to like love what you do. And I know that there's a lot of people that do love what they do. And I love that for them. I'm like, that is such a clear, easy path to follow. And at times I'm like, that seems cool. But instead I've chosen this journey of like figuring it out. But there's so much joy in that too. It's just a different kind of joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I really wouldn't. I mean, no,
Yeah.
I'm
Even the
on it.
tears.
The tears, there's no direct deposit anymore though, so that's a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
different.
We're working on it.
But that's just the risk that you have to take. I mean, to create something that you truly want, it's not easy unless everyone would be doing it.
What would you say was the scariest part of jumping ship for you?
Oh, there's so many. The scariest part, probably two things, is one, figuring it out. It's so much to do. When you walk into, you know, corporate America, they have a training system. You do A, B, and C, you're going to get A, B, and C profits. It's really a clear path. Whenever you're creating something that you've never done before, but you want to do, it seems very daunting. And that is terrifying. And I think that's why a lot of people don't go after things that they want. Travel UGC, never heard of her. I saw people doing it. I'm like, that's so cool for them, but I can't do that, you know? And then I finally was like, wait, why can't I do that? You know, and it just, you have to bet on yourself. I really do trust my decision making skills. I don't just make them like very whimsical. I sit on things for a while. So then when I finally announce it to people, I think that they're like, oh my God, wait, what do you mean? And I'm like, no, I've been sitting with this for a while. So like, I'm good with it. I'm just letting you know this is what's happening next. And so I really just went through my life just kind of making a decision. And I think
You said,
life
no, this is an informed decision.
this is very informed. I just didn't tell you about it,
Yeah.
which a lot of people, you know, whatever. I trust the decisions that I make for my life because I've been in enough life situations that I realize I can just make another decision. And I think a lot of people are just scared to try something new, right? To fail. I have failed so many times. I'm just not scared of it. And I think at the end of the day, and I shared a video with you recently where it was talking about corporate America and it said, what if the business doesn't work out? And then underneath that, it said that my worst case scenario is your current reality. And I just think that's all the corporate America people that are questioning people that step out and do something different. And at the end of the day, I can go back into corporate America and I can get a 6-figure sales job. I don't doubt myself or my skills, and I know that that's there if and when I ever need that as a backup plan. But I'm creating something that I want and I actually want to put the time and effort into. And so that's kind of where I put my energy into.
Like, that's just my backup plan, you know,
Yeah,
because I have that much faith in either I'll make it work for myself or I can just go get another job, you know.
exactly. Yeah.
And like you said earlier, I'll just make another decision.
It's all about decisions. Like, and you're never stuck in a decision, right? Like, we're humans, we're always evolving and discovering new things in this life that we want or need. And I think it's just okay to make another decision. Like, I love when I see friends and family like just doing something different. Like, and I'm like, oh my God, like that's so cool for you. Like, I know so many people recently have just stepped out and done like these little side hustles, and I'm like, oh my God, like go you. People are just like making decisions and doing something different because they want different. And those are the people that I align with.
So, thank you so much for being here. I've got one more question for you. What is some advice that you would give to people as they try and transition their job to make them more happy?
What I would say would be my number one starting point would be like sit down and really go deep in yourself what makes you happy. Like I'm not saying what's your passion, I'm saying like what brings you authentic joy because I think a lot of people don't even know what that is. So I think you have to figure out what that is. Mine is travel. Creating and seeing and like exploring the world is just something that I am so passionate about and it breeds like everything else of like what I make a decision in life. So I think that once you really hone into what brings you joy, there's so many things to monetize around it. So once you find that one thing, it's like, okay, cool. Can I monetize it? Maybe it is just a creative outlet, which is fine, right? That will ultimately still bring you more joy in this life.
I tell people, whatever keeps the demons at bay, you know,
Yeah.
like do what is bringing you the most joy is like what is keeping your brain quiet, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because it gets loud sometimes up there, and finding that thing that really makes you kind of zone out, whatever that activity looks like. Tap into that, you know, a
Mm-hmm.
lot more.
Like what makes you want to be here each and every day? Honestly, finding those moments of joy of like things that you can be creative in and just like be present to what you're saying is really all it's about.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for joining us today. Thank you guys for listening. I love you so, so, so much. And thank you guys for tuning in and see you next week.
Bye.